Thank you, Sister Chilling. So, whatever that we do today will be a history tomorrow. Therefore, all recording is very important. We want to ensure that what we do today will remain a footprint that will be visible tomorrow. Uh, Sorry, I forgot my greetings. Good morning, dearest masters and everyone. My name is Hui Ru. I am very grateful to have this opportunity to share with everyone on the concept of applying humanistic culture when we're doing charity. The warmth that we share um, between human is something that we can retain forever. Charity is a foundation that we must all maintain. So we must be very familiar with the culture and how we conduct um, charity work so that we can retain the memories as well as be able to communicate the culture and the value and the concepts to everyone. We also want to be able to communicate and share the experience so that we can encourage more people to participate and continue to contribute for a betterment of everyone. In every recording, one of the most powerful recording is photograph to capture the moment. So most of us has got a handphone or a cell phone that is able to take picture. This becomes a very good tool for us to capture the moment and capturing the history. So today we would like to share the values and the concept in capturing the moments and recording them. As you can see from the screen, this is a very special picture. This picture is filled with warmth, and this was taken last year in Malaysia, in Malacca. Um, so at that time, the volunteers were targeting elderly aged 65 and above. And this picture was taken just before the Lunar New Year, where our volunteers went to visit the elderlies to help them clean their house. And as at the end of the cleaning session, all our volunteers gathered around them, and you could see that the elderly was very happy. Whilst they were not blood relations, they're not blood relatives, but you can see that the warmth and it provides love from a family. Next, um, Master said that every story and every action enrich our life. Without capturing the moments, all these meaningful stories would be lost in time. So we emphasize that whilst we're doing charity, we must not lose the humanistic culture. We want to be able to share and encourage other people to also continue. We want everyone to know that everyone can participate and join in our charity path. If we can share our past experience or the moment, and with recording, we can share that with people in the future. Master said, every story and every action enrich our life. Without capturing the moments, these meaningful stories would be lost in time. We hope that we can uphold this and to maintain the recording and to encourage doing goods so that it can continue to be an example for everyone, and we can share with everyone the footprints that we have walked. Next, I would like to share this picture. So our first humanistic culture was mastered. This picture was taken 50 years ago by our master. This was in a small village in Hualien. At that time, master led a group of volunteers to visit Madam Wong, and on their way, the bus was stuck on a flowing stream. So as you can see, um, commissioners got off the bus and pushed the bus. This picture, from this picture, we could see when it was taken, where it was taken, and this becomes a history, a story that we can retain forever. Every story, there will be a people element, there's a time, there's a location, and there is a story. So this is the importance of keeping record. Um, there was an old person. She was in her 80s, and she has a granddaughter, and her granddaughter was not very well. So at that time, she was 44. So whenever she was not well, she would abuse her mother, who was already in her 80s. But her grandmother, Miss Madam Wong, would continue to take care of her grandchild. She's often worried about who would take care of her grandchild when she's no longer around. At that time, Master thought it would be so nice if we could find somebody who would take care of this granddaughter. So Tzu Chi took up the case and managed to help the granddaughter to go to a mental health hospital. And this helped Madam Wong because now at least she would have some consolence that her granddaughter will be well taken care of. So this is a reflection on the powerful of recording, because we have recorded the story, and regardless of time that has passed, the story will remain, and we will be able to still see it today. So it is very important that we keep good record. Actually, this story not only talks about the case, but it is also talking about the volunteers. When we take recording, we not only focus on the case, but also our commissioners, as well as people around them, for instance, like their neighbors. So together it creates a complete picture. So you can see also from this picture, it shows the spirit at that time, where everyone was working together to achieve for a better good. So at that time, when this happened, Master actually encouraged all the commissioners to get off the bus and work together to help push the bus. But at that time, the driver of the bus said, "No, don't go down, because we can cross the river." Unfortunately, when crossing the river, it became trapped in the stream. It was quite dangerous and raining too. And so when the bus did not budge from the push, the driver went to get help from somewhere else. It was about 3 hours. Everyone was actually very worried because they were worried whether or not they could get help to push the bus. And also it was raining. So if the stream continue flow, it would be very dangerous not to all the volunteers. So the 3 hours wait was very long to everyone. In the recently, this picture has been used quite a bit in reminiscing back then. Why why is it possible that we can always see this picture and be reminded of the story? So it is because of the recording, the quality of recording that was captured at the time. And in our Tzu Chi journey, we will be faced with many challenges. And you can see from the picture that when we work together, we can solve the problem together. This is a spirit and an energy that we must all uphold by working together so that we can face all challenges. And we will do it willingly. Next, we would like to share the first story of Madam Lin. So in this picture, you can see this is the cutting that was taken. This was from 1967. So in this article, there are two articles. So this is story about Mrs. Lin, Madam Linton. She was a long-term. She was the first long-term care recipient. Um, in this picture, it also has a story about another lady and about the first medical um, care recipient. So as we can see, um, this newsletter record on what happened at the time, and it also recorded the donations and support that we received, and it clearly identify who contributed and the amount. So let us this story about this lady. So she came from Fujian province in China. She came to Taiwan to in search of a husband. But at that time when she found her husband was in a very ill condition. Um, so at that time she lived in a small place near Chunghua Market. She was worried because she was alone. So at that time, she adopted a son. Unfortunately, he died at a very early age. She later adopted another granddaughter. Unfortunately, she abandoned her and left home. So she was living alone. At that time, uh, people in her neighborhood also did care for her. And this story came to Tzu Chi. And then she became a first long-term care recipient. So at that time, not only we cared for the elderly by providing financial help, we also provided care to them. So Madam Lin was our first care recipient and our first case in our first month. So it has been since 1960, in the 1966 to 90, 1970. So we took care of her for 4 years, where we contributed material aid as well as taking care for her. At that time, we provided rice and cash, about 300 Taiwan dollars at the time. Tzu Chi also employed someone to take care of her, to help with cleaning. So the $300 that we provided was, in order to fund the $300, Tzu Chi encouraged volunteers to contribute, where our volunteers contributed 50 cents a day to help. So whilst at that time, whilst it was difficult because everyone was poor, but everyone wanted to help. This is about Madam Lu, our first medical care case. As you can see in the slide, this is a form where we recorded the case. Tzu Chi volunteers would record details of the case referred, and also providing some context, providing background to the case, and everything was recorded in detail. Why do we display this here? I will share with you later. So Madam Lu was diagnosed with glaucoma and was nearly blind. So her case was referred to Tzu Chi in June 1966. Tzu Chi provided some medical help, and it was around 5,000 new Taiwan dollars. So at that time, the amount of available fund was just over $1,000, but the medical fee was around $3,000. So at that time, the question was, how are we going to fund this help? So at that time, Master and older Jingsi masters were living a very hard time as well. So they have very low revenue. So they were living in hardship. There were times when they had to borrow rice and oil from nearby temple, but this never stopped them. How are we gonna fund? How are we gonna fund this money? Master said, we must help. We will find a way. So at that time, Madam Lu was in her 30s and she had five children. And her husband worked in a local newspaper, also with very low income. And from time to time, he has to sell vegetable in a local market to make some living. But now she has an illness, so she is blind. She was blind. So Tzu Chi sent her to a local hospital, and after the surgery, it did not improve much because it was left too late. So at that time, Madam Lu was very disappointed. Initially, she thought that after the surgery, she could return to her previous life, but that did not happen. And she was stuck at home. And also because her visual was poor, it made it very difficult for her. And she was not able to take care of her children. So She was very frustrated and she felt very useless and helpless. That was her emotion at that time. Later in the same year, in December, so Madame Lu had a quarrel with her husband over two cabbages, and as a result, she committed suicide. Tzu volunteers were very sad. How is it possible that a bad incident just happened? Um, and at that time, it was because she was very frustrated that she was not able to help her family. And the children in their home, they only have salted radish with rice. So one time her husband came home with two cabbages. So when she saw it, she was very happy because now they could have some better food. So she cooked both of the cabbages. That night, when her husband came back and saw the dishes on the table, he asked, "Did you cook both the cabbages?" And at that time, her husband was responded and said, "It was very hard to have two cabbages. Why did we cook all of them at the same time?" His comment made her felt really sad, and she felt really, really helpless, and she felt she became a burden to her family. And when her husband told her off about the cabbages, she just couldn't get through it. And then she committed suicide. It was a very sad incident. Why do we keep record of every case? So recently we were compiling stories from the past, and as part of doing the project, so from some stories that we receive through verbal stories, some people remembered the story as two cabbages, three cabbages, or four cabbages, but what was the truth? So in order to find, one of our volunteers um, went and looked at the record, and from this form, the record, we were we were able to confirm that the story was two cabbages. So what I want to say here and focus is that it is very important that what we record are facts at the time, so that we can maintain a true story in our records. Because of the story and the unfortunate incident, this became an affinity for us to um, have a slightly different strategy. Master said, if we only provide monetary support for living allowance, it is not enough. We must also care for their heart and about their well-being so that we can prevent unfortunate incident. Not only we want to help them with what they are currently faced with, we also want to help them to open up their heart so that they can see the world and live the life with a very open heart. For instance, our volunteers in Africa, they live in poverty, but they have a very open heart. So if you think about Madame Lu at that time, she she had visual impairment, but she was healthy. Unfortunately, The experience that she faced at that time made her feel very frustrated in her life. What she did not remember, she failed to remember that her existence, just being alive, was very useful and meaningful to her family. So we want to ensure that everyone that we help, we also help them to open up their heart so that they can remain positive instead of being very pessimistic and decided to go down an unwanted path. In this picture, this is a story about Mr. Lee. He was 81 and blinded. Um, he lived near an embankment in that small house. Master was very worried because he would cook in the house. And so, as you know, it can be very dangerous when you are cooking in a house because it could end up in a fire incident. And as well as because of the location of this house, it was near an embankment. There is always a risk of it being washed away in a flood. So in December 1967, he moved into a house that Tsuji built for him. So, so since then, Tsuji has constructed more than 200,000 Ta'ai housing. So yeah, so um, Mr. Lee was blinded and blind and very old. So Master especially visited his neighbors and asked that they could drop by to Mr. Lee's place to have a look on their way to the fields. So the concept of neighborhood care then became a strategy when caring for all people um, who are living alone. Again, this emphasizes the importance of recording the moment and capturing the moment so that we can continue to share this inspiring story. So today we can we can be told of the experience and the journey that Master went through when setting up Tsuji many years ago. So our records will record their names and also people around them. So um, recently we also share the concept of following up care and encouraging neighborhood care. So this it was initiated many years ago, and with through this strategy, we hope that um, all people will be better taken care of. In this picture, this is also a this is story about three men in Pingtung. They all have different disabilities. So you can see that the first man in front, Mr. Kwok, he had disabled feet, so he sat in front so that he could direct the way. The second, the man in the middle, was blind. He used his hand to control the gears. And the third man sitting at the back, he was deaf. He used handless signs to attract attention so that other vehicles would see them. So this picture is a reminder of the education that we can share with everyone. This picture was taken, it was in a winter distribution. At that time, Master thought that most people would like to receive new clothes before the new year to celebrate a new year. So Master wanted to offer them um, clothes and tailor-made new clothes for all people that are very warm, and for the school children, school uniforms. We must treat all children as our own. So you can see from the picture that they are holding school uniform. At that time, it was also a good quality uniform that um, are very comfortable. As you can see the picture, um, all the children were very happy receiving the school uniform. So when we offer help, we offer them something that they need and they want. So this is very important when we offer help. We would not only focus on just giving them the material goods, but we also think about them, like how we would feel, for instance, in this where we know that many would wish for a new set of clothing. So we also make effort to provide that to them. And also it made them feel that we have them in our heart. And next, this picture, it was taken in our Jingsi abode. It was during a winter distribution. So Madam Xie is the lady standing in front wearing a hat. Um, Next to her was her son, and they just received the aid of just received the distribution from winter distribution. This picture was taken in January 1970. So Jingsi Abode at that time was just a simple building. Um, in the early days, the land in front was a paddy field. So you can see a lot of the aid recipient have received their distribution and they're heading home. The story of Mrs. Ye, she had six children. Her husband just passed away at that time. Prior to that, her husband wasn't well for 3 years. So her family was living in poverty. Not only life was hard, she also had many children that she had to take care of. So we helped them from 1964. In this picture was 30, 33 years ago, Sister Fang. Sister Fang was the eldest daughter of Mrs. Lee, Madam Lee from the picture before. When she was looking through the pictures, she was very surprised to see a photo of her mother and her brother in the picture. At that time, she realized that Tzu was the foundation that helped her family back then. 30 years later, now she is a Tzu volunteer. As we know, we we give um, selflessly, the same as Sister Fang. So you see the importance of keeping records. The next one, this is another story about relay of love. So now we have Tsuji website where it can be where we can have stories that we can share stories with many people. Um, so this story is back then in 1975. It was from Taitung to Kaohsiung. So at that time, this is a story about Madam Huang. She was very young at the time. Master went and visited her back then. When Master visited her, she was holding a child um, and was breastfeeding her child. And as you can see from the picture, she has a growth at her lower cheek. In 1975, Madam Huang received long-term help from Tzu Ji. In 1980, Tzu Ji volunteered, accompanied her to Kaohsiung Hospital for a surgery. So some did ask, we helped her since 1975. Why did we only help her to get a surgery in 1980? Actually, because back then we have been trying to convince her and her husband, but because they live in a rural area, so um, they were worried about the risk of doing a surgery. So for 5 years, Tsuchi volunteers continue to accompany and encourage her and to continue to look for options for a safer treatment. And finally, found that there is a doctor in Kaohsiung Hospital that were able to help to remove a tumor from her face. So when it was in 1980, um, before she had a surgery, she was already living in pain for 13 years. And for 13 years, she had to suffer the pain, and the tumor kept on growing for 13 years. And the surgery was almost 5 years. And the tumor that was removed was 6 to 7 kilo. So um, it was a very big change to her. It was also very complicated surgery at that time. So we encourage, Tzu Chi volunteers encourage her to move to Fengyuan, instead of living in a rural area, to move to a different city. And her husband at that time worked at Fengyuan. And so when they moved to a new town, the local volunteers continued to provide care. In this picture is a picture from the picture on the right is a picture of Sister Zheng, and then on the left hand it was picture taken in 1916 where Madam Huang had another illness, and Superintendent Ken of Taitung went and visited her. So as you can see, we travel through time and we follow our cases in a long journey. So in total, we we took care of Madam Huang for 42 years. Next, previously we have seen a few cases, and we also saw the sufferings that other people had to live. Some are the elderlies, and many others. So in this picture, this is picture I want to share. This picture was taken in 1940 in Taipei. This old person is Mr. Huang. So when our volunteer received this referral, our volunteers in Taipei went to visit and clean the house, um, help this old person to shower, um, and this old person passed away at the age of 105. Tzu Chi volunteers went and helped like a family member. So it is when we see sufferings that we recognize blessings that we have. So this is an example of how our volunteers contribute and help others, and in the process also cultivate and learn to improve themselves. So in the process of um, to clean the house, including washing the toilet, and it's like treating others like our family. So we also want to keep memories and capture moments where our volunteers are contributing. So in this picture, um, there's a picture of Sister Chen. So she's one of the very senior volunteers in Taipei. Another one is also Sister Jingyuan. She was also one of very senior um, volunteers. So when we keep very detailed record, including the name, we not only record about the case, we also keep good record of the volunteers. So often when we take pictures, we focus on the care recipient, but sometimes we forgot to record the name of the volunteers because we are very familiar with them. However, many years later, if someone were to refer to the picture, they may not know who was there at the time. So we want to encourage everyone to not only record just the case recipient, but also everyone in the picture for future reference. So what should we record? We want to, how do we record? What kind of picture should we take? So for example, this is where I would like to share with you, how do we take pictures? How do we ensure the quality of the pictures that we take so that it will be a record that's very useful in the future? What kind of picture should we take? So firstly, we want to be able to take a picture from the front so that we can recognize the picture of, we can recognize the people in the picture. If we are taking pictures, we probably want to take pictures around the house, including long shots, middle shots, and short shots, so that we get more clarity of the picture. We also want to be able to capture the moments of interaction between our volunteers and the case. Where possible, when there's an interaction, we encourage to take pictures from the side or from the back. This is also to help us to maintain privacy as well as to respect their privacy. And where there are pictures where people can easily identify the care recipient in the photo, we would normally not use it for public use unless we have received consent from them. So these are things that we want to be mindful of, especially when it comes to privacy. So I hope that we will remember so that we'll be able to use the pictures in the future if it follows our guideline. So we just have to be careful about sharing our photos. So often we take photos easily, and so over time we take many pictures, and it helps us to be able to track and see changes from the previous visit. And then, especially when we have um, different volunteers coming to visit or a change in the environment, for instance, maybe the health has changed or the emotion has changed. So we'll be able to see the changes in the picture. We can also take pictures of the before and after we clean the house. So if we can take all this picture, it becomes a very good record. It also helps us to be able to communicate with others, because often when we just verbally share, other people may not be able to picture what actually happened at the time. So going back to the first story that I shared about commissioner about commissioner pushing the bus. So if we were just telling people the story without a picture, people may not be able to picture the risk at the time about the flowing water. And with this one picture, is a picture tells a thousand words. So capturing the right picture at the right moment will really help us preserve the story, and it can continue to the future, and we can continue to share with people in the future. So it is very important to capture the moment. It becomes a proof and evidence of what had happened at the time. But if you only take pictures, we also may miss out on certain key points. So we encourage a recording in words so we can combine the pictures and the stories to have a better picture. For instance, the photo of the three men on a tricycle. So in that picture, we were able to know their name and which one, each of their names. So this was all recorded at that time. And what are the background of the case? What was the current situation at the time when we visit them? So this will help us to be able to better understand the situation. And what are the things that has changed? We also want to record things that has changed over the time that we interacted with them. And some of them um, may recover from their illness, or um, it is it is a story of their life that we can continue to share with others. So we want to keep good record. So in here, we tried to compile to show the proportion and the importance that we want to keep and be mindful when we do visit, and it is a very good source of reference. So before we go and visit, we want to be able to understand and get the context and understand the background, including their names, the current situation, and the distance from the place that we have to visit, whether or not it will require to go up a hill or we need to cross waterways, the appearance of the residents, what are the previous interactions that our volunteers had with our client. So Master said every history is a story. So our story will have elements of the people, the time, and the story. So it is very important that we keep record as detailed as possible. So as I in my previous story, if there were two cabbages, the record should clearly say it's two cabbages instead of making um, unclear assumptions. So with every details, it helps us to be able to compare and see the differences before and after. It also helps us to identify if there are areas that we can further contribute. And through this recording, we also can share where we see sufferings, and from seeing the sufferings, we understand and we appreciate our blessings. So it will encourage us to continue to contribute to make it better for people who are suffering. It also helps us to emphasize our direction and to make our lives more meaningful. So if I look at the proportion, this is a brief breakdown. The preparation before a visit normally take about 10% of the effort, um, and the understanding of the situation is about 20%, and the actual visit is 70%. Um, all the preparation work, including recruiting volunteers and briefing volunteers, this should also be given high importance. And we want to ensure that we have an end-to-end process, and we want to be able to record. Our documentation should also including recording of interactions between our volunteers, as well as not just with the case but also in between our volunteers. So we want to be able to describe, for instance, when we help them to do cleaning, we want to be able to describe the situation, like how many people were there. Um, so, for instance, if there were seven people, and then um, and during the time, if our volunteers, as part of the observation, they noticed that there were other so in this one, there was a story where our volunteers went and helped, and as part of cleaning the house, they noticed that the toilet sanitary in a good were not in a very good condition. So because of that observation, they know that when they come and help cleaning the house, they will need to prepare the right tool so that they can help the care recipient. So these are very important to ensure that we have good recording. For instance, previously um, in our first picture, where all our volunteers were gathered around the old person, and um, made the old person felt like he or she was surrounded with her close family member. Um, when when we interact with our care recipient, we also want to encourage them to also be able to help others. For example, we can introduce the story of our bamboo era, and we want to encourage them to also give. When it comes to special events or a festival, for instance, when it's Mother's Day, we will remember to visit the old people to make them feel that they are still loved. And these are the things that we also want to record so that we can share the story. Next, I would like to share a very good example. It was in Zimbabwe. So um, the recording in Zimbabwe, the process was very challenging because at the time, they only have two cameras to take the picture, but both of them were with defects. So in Zimbabwe, they are often faced with challenges because there are frequent power outages. So it means that they will need to rush back to the office to ensure that data are properly transmitted. At the same time, language was also a barrier. So they have to write a presentation in English.
This is a distribution that we did. So during COVID-19, the coronavirus lockdown, a lot of them already in very poor environment. So we during the lockdown, we quickly go and help with the distribution. And this is the period of June to the period of August. We went to help with the the distribution. So, as we master always say, when those in suffering cannot come to us, we go to them to help them. As you can see, from this picture, you can see that there's rice and other food aid that we go there to help them. So you can see the sisters there holding on the hand is the hand sanitizer and so on. So we actually go there and also teach them to tell them the importance of wearing masks to sanitize their hand and so on. Uh, so the next picture here, as you can see, this is how they draw up the summary table. As you can see from summary table, we put down the dates, like what dates that we go and help them from June to August, and the venue, where's the place that activities being carrying out, and then and during the COVID-19 house distributions activity and photos, who took the photos is all noted down, and the text, who wrote the text. And also from the summary table here, we can see that like how many houses they have gone to serve. So they serve 1,030 houses during the period of 2 months. And also what are the items that we donated. You can see that we donated 730 rice from Taiwan, and there's medical masks, cooking oil, and blankets, and so on. And a total of 83 volunteers went to help. And the next picture here, we can see that this is in the outskirts of the Zimbabwe there, where it is a very poor uh, area. And you can see that in these small groups, their volunteers carry out foldable beds, blankets, rice, cooking oil, and medical masks for them in the need of lockdown period. Yeah, as you can see, this in there, you can see a well. This is the borehole that one of the search activity where we actually dig the borehole for them so that they can have water. And as you know that in Zimbabwe, you can see that there's lots of rocks in Zimbabwe. It's actually very dry and yeah, very, pretty empty. And you can see the next pictures here. This is an elderly. Is very touched with the story because he is blind and stays alone. And during this pandemic, the children are in South Africa, and then the children couldn't reach to him. So, and during this time, we searching volunteers went there to help. As he stayed by himself alone, we went to help him. Uh, and the next picture, you see that this is his feet here. He was telling us that his feet was bitten by ants. There are many ants biting him. And also we realized from here that this is his mat that where he sleep on. And since he hardly moves the red mat. It was full of moles and ants. So we quickly provide a foldable bed for him, and throw away his old bed, so for and donated to him. And also we volunteers help to cover the holes with a pole so that the ants couldn't come up from the ground to go into the bed and bite the elderly man. So as you can see this picture, this is a very touching story. That's why master say that the bodhisattva uh, are really our good disciples, as they even though they are very poor, but they also have so much love. Though poor, they still go out and help others. And the next story is here is a story of a mom. Her name is Catherine, a single mother of 4 children. So Catherine is the neighbor of the elderly man just now. And Catherine has 4 children, and you can see she has a little baby as well. And this is the front of her house. So we can see that their living environment is not that good. And though she is poor, she's full of love. She also help look after the elderly man next door. Um, is- so she will ask his eldest son to help cook food while she's at work, and the son cook food for the elderly man as well as for their own family. So as you can see, they cannot afford the firewood, so they use dry maize crops. So using maize crops is not easy because very fast the fire will just disappear. So he has to continuously blow and keep the fire going. So, but his mom is very full of love, and not only cook for their own family but also help the elderly next door. And she has so much love to care for her children as well as the elderly next door. So when we volunteers see such a situation, we feel that we really will continue to help this elderly man as well as this family. So volunteers donated food for these 2 families and continue to care for them. So this another story here. This is a boy, Marshall, and he's only 13 years old. This is before that this is his house before they got was on fire. Um, and this next picture is the house that now that he lives in. So uh, so this house is actually built by the father. Um, so now only he and his brother stay together. As why he didn't see the father, because the father left and remarried. So volunteers went to help and help them clean the place. So as we can see that there's a pole on the right hand side, and there's a borehole there, you can see, because their house area they don't have the water. So he was thinking of how to find water, so he started digging a hole on the ground to try to get the water. As you can see, he's only 13 years old, but he's also the main person in the household. He has to look after the brother and at the same time have to care for the family. So so slowly, bit by bit, he dig such a big hole from the ground so that he can get water. So volunteers talk to him and uh, discuss with him, and then knowing that his mom already passed away, uh, uh, will go and help him. So how did the mother pass away? I think the mom passed away during giving birth to the brother. Giving birth to a baby. So he always say that it would be so nice to have his mom. So he also talked about his dream, and his dream is to hopefully he can go back to school to study, and hopefully he can get a good job later on and improve the lifestyle with his brother. He also said that he and his brother went to look for the father, but every time he went to see the father, he still come back with nothing. So his father didn't really help them. So this is the picture of Marshall in his own home, and you can see this. You can see from the picture there are some clothings um, at the background. So all the clothings are just stacked around the back there, and uh, and you can see that he's sitting on his bed. Next, when we opened up the blankets from the bed, we realized that, as you can see from this picture, the bed is actually very broken. So, is this called bed? So, you can see the inside inner of the bed is all torn into pieces. So, is really, really hard for this child to um, to uh, to live. So very fast, we quickly we donated some foldable bed for them, and we also donated foodstuff and foodstuff and blankets to their family. So volunteers donated shoes and clothes for the children. So volunteers also help put on the clothes for the brother and Marshall. So volunteers really help these children and let them know that now that you have surgery, we have us. We are your mothers, so you are not alone. So yeah, so the children now refer to them as mothers since they have become part of their family. Mm. So now that they have a nice clothing to wear, so from here what we can see that our Zimbabwe volunteers are all really excellent, really good. They really managed to uh, send their love all to the recipients. So this in this story, this uh, he Ching Suga, this is his name. He is also one of the beneficiaries who received aid from Sergi, and he born with the conditions where he can't walk. Uh, though though he though has no legs, like he is disabled, but he still go out and still go out to work and uh, uh, breaks down quarry stones and sells them for those who wish to build houses in their area. So, however, he said that though he is disabled, he is not any less or less ability as compared to other people with two legs. So he's full of energy and strength to uh, look after himself. So the next stories is this story of these four children. Um, Uh, so the eldest in this family is 12 years old. So from left to right is 12 years old, 8-year old, 6-year old, and 4-year old. They remember that in 2016, the police came and carried their father away. And since then, they haven't seen their dad. So a week later, their stepmother left them as well. So at that time, so from 2016 onwards, these four children live on their own. This picture is of him standing in front of his own house. Um, and this house, however, was early January this year. It's collapsed because it was not strong enough from the wind. So his neighbor was really good, and they let them give them a room to stay. So in this picture, this is the room that the four children stay. This is the room. There's no beddings and nothing. Then on the floor, it's just broken sheets. Very fast. Searching volunteers went there to donate folder beds to them, so for the children to sleep on. At that time, the eldest brother went there to the eldest brother went out to work, so searching volunteers prepares the bed for the children. You can see like this picture of our volunteers with the three little children there. Yeah, so hopefully our volunteers also can accompany them to see them grow up. So when the big brother came back, we volunteers donated food item to the brother. You can see the before and after picture. The next picture is this is a elder lady Arena. Actually, the local nurses already remind her not to work too hard because of her strain on the body and the condition. So, however, she has no option but to work uh, because she said that if she doesn't work, she would have nothing to eat. So she has to continue working. So she is one of the person that we hope that we can help. So she often used the because of her work, she used small axe and then often hurt her own hands while cutting the breaking down the stones. So you see, breaking down the stones here from such a big rock into small stones is actually not easy. So this is the house, the stone's house, and there's her granddaughter Miriam. She has a granddaughter, 25 years old, Miriam. As you can see from this picture, from the from the picture, you can see the granddaughter uh, here actually is very is dangerous. It's not because it is during taking during winter time. So she sat next to the fire to try to keep herself warm because it's very cold. But it's very dangerous if she's sitting so close to the fire. So straight away, our volunteers went there and we donated blankets to the family. Mm, But her grandmother feared that the blankets will catch fire, and as the floor was cold as well, so she won't let the granddaughter be close to the fire, uh, the blanket. So volunteers, after applying for the bed later, volunteers also uh, cover her with blankets so that she can sleep on the bed. So this is another story of this is a story of a 21-year-old single mom. Her, this is she delivered her first child alone, and when she delivered her child, actually her husband already left. So she gave birth the child alone, and then and her pa- parents also passed away. So this is a picture of her and the baby. You can see that they're just sleeping on the floor. Mm. So volunteers quickly use the blankets to cover the foldable bed, and then wrap the baby so that they can feel warm, and so little baby can now sleeping on the surgery bed and feel warm and feel love and care. We also give them food aid. And this story, this is another is a survivor. This lady is a survivor of a domestic abuse. She's 32 year old, and she has to raise her own children. Yeah. So what happened in this case is that her husband had been abusive, and her husband poured paraffin on her skin, and you can see that she suffered a lot of injuries, and can be seen on this picture. She said that though she gone through that, she didn't want to die because she still knew to stay alive to look after the children. So when we went there, we saw that the children have nothing to eat. Their stomach is hungry, and they are crying for hunger. So we go there is really to save their life too. So when the mother have to go out to work, so the big sister have to help looking after the little uh, brother and sisters. So volunteers, when they quickly go and help clear up the babies, the children, and also feed them. So from here, we also we it is more of a blessing to serve others than to be served, as Master said. Mm. So it is these sisters when they to uh, again help look after the babies and help spread the seeds of great love. Mm. So this is putting on new clothes for the babies. These are the twins. Actually, actually, Zimbabwe volunteers they didn't attend a training session like in the charity and so on. They didn't attend training on recording or taking photos and so on. But what they did is actually very very good. They yeah yeah they also here went to teach the recipients how to keep themselves clean and then and mm, do through all this work that they have done. They actually volunteers. Zimbabwe, they are actually a uh, very good, very professional. They did very well, and then the pictures I think, as you can see, they documented it very well, and it's very clear. So we see, like if we can see from this Zimbabwe's recording and documented all this history, it is really touching. So as Master say, there are lots of achievements in the past. Never forget the year, the events, and the young people. They must be all in our heart at all time. So every past is our present. We need to seize every second of our past. They are our every present moment. So because of the recording, we must record all down. The present is the past of the future. We need to take good use of the present time. If we can do best in the past and the present, we will talk about them talk about them happily in the future. So this is what Master say in the July 18, 2020 at the wisdom at dawn. So the more we do, the more we have experience and we can reach out to more people and help other people. We can give them lights and we can give lights to every darkness if we can go and reach out to help uh, others. So thank you very much for uh, today's class. And then we must remember that what we are recording, we want to record the whole warmness of the whole situation. So we can document that all the story and and use our love uh, and with our love and care, we can do a very good documentation for the future. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sister Huiru Sharon. Uh, Thank you. This charity humanitarian session, as we can see from the presentation just now, like in this last 55 years, Sergi has been documented all the history of events in Zimbabwe. We can see, even though the volunteers in Zimbabwe don't have all the equipments like what we have, but they still use the whatever they have in the best use to document and record down um, all the events. So hopefully from this session today, we can all learn how we can do, how can we document all the important uh, events with what we have, and how we document the moment of happening at the time. We need to take down all the text and all that clearly, um, and record down the events in place, time properly, so that we can record the whole event accordingly. So if we can see from all the pictures, we're very touched by the pictures. That's why we use uh, uh, pictures and to make it into a story, and recording to turn into a story that we can look in the future, where we can reuse it again, and when we look at it again, it is a very touching stories with all the details being uh, put in properly. So hopefully, in these 6 sessions that we have been attending, we have learned a lot and use our our best to uh, uh, remember what we have learned, and record down all the steps and steps that we can use in the future recording as we carrying out our charity work. So if so hopefully all these materials you can keep it and record it. Also, we have a line link here, so you can always post and have uh, yeah, share the any pictures and information through the link. So through the pictures through the link, we will make it tidy, correct it, and then put it in place for document for as a documentation for future. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Hui Ru and Sister Chu Ling, helping in this whole helping in presenting this session. Everyone can turn on their video now. Thank you for your sharing.